Most people are terrified of being alone. They'd rather cling to a mediocre partner, scroll endlessly through dating apps, or drown themselves in fantasies than face the silence of solitude. But here's the brutal truth. The man who cannot stand alone will never thrive. Nietzsche saw this weakness everywhere. Men who sacrificed their power for comfort, who gave up their independence for affection and lost themselves the moment they fell in love. To him, this wasn't romance. It was slavery. And he believed that if you truly want to rise above mediocrity, you must first learn to embrace what others fear most: staying single. Now think about it. Every message you've heard since childhood told you the opposite. Parents, movies, and society itself, they preach that fulfillment comes from finding the one, that your life doesn't really begin until you're in love, that being single means you're broken, unwanted, and incomplete. Nietzsche would laugh at that. He'd call it a lie for the weak, a story for those too afraid to face themselves. Because when you hide behind another person just to escape your own emptiness, you're not in love. You're running away. And running away is the beginning of mediocrity. History's greatest minds, thinkers, warriors, and creators, did not build their legacy by being constantly distracted by love. They built it in solitude, in silence, and in struggle. Alone, that's where clarity is forged. That's where strength is born. That's where you discover who you really are. But here's the problem. Solitude is unbearable for most, because solitude shows you the truth. It shows you your weakness, your wasted time, and your failures. It forces you to confront the mirror you've been avoiding, and that mirror terrifies people so much that they will trade their freedom for a relationship that dulls the pain. Nietzsche called this self-betrayal. To him, the higher man, the man who dares to thrive, must not run from solitude but master it. Only then can he even think about love without losing himself in it. So here's the question. Are you strong enough to stand alone? Or are you so desperate to escape yourself that you'll throw away your potential for the illusion of comfort? In this series, we'll break down Nietzsche's brutal warning. Why staying single isn't a failure, but the only foundation for strength, freedom, and greatness. Because until you master solitude, you will always belong to someone else. Imagine a man waking up in silence, no partner beside him, no phone buzzing with messages, no plans for the day except the ones he chooses. He pours his own coffee, sits alone at the table, and faces the quiet. Most people would call this loneliness, but Nietzsche would call it strength, because in that silence, the man is free. Free from compromise, free from distraction, free from the constant negotiation that relationships demand. He doesn't have to dilute his vision to keep someone else comfortable. He doesn't have to trade his ambitions for affection. He owns every second of his time. Nietzsche believed that solitude is not just an accident of life, but a weapon, a crucible that burns away weakness and reveals the raw steel underneath. He wrote that the higher man, the man striving for greatness, must walk alone for long stretches of his life. Not because he hates others, but because the presence of others softens his edge, makes him tame, turns him into what society wants instead of what he was born to be. Look at history. The great thinkers, inventors, artists. They spent years in isolation, obsessed, possessed by their work. Nietzsche himself lived much of his life in solitude, cut off from family, love, and companionship. And in that aloneness, he wrote words that would shape the world. His suffering didn't break him. It carved him into something sharper, something unforgettable. Contrast that with the ordinary man who cannot bear a single evening without company. He fills his nights with empty conversations, endless entertainment, shallow love affairs. He tells himself he's living, but in reality, he's avoiding the silence, avoiding the mirror, avoiding the painful clarity that solitude forces upon you. And here's the truth Nietzsche saw. You cannot become strong if you never face yourself. Solitude is the training ground. It's the arena where you confront your failures, your desires, your weaknesses. It is where you hear your real voice, the one drowned out by the noise of other people's opinions. Most men think solitude will make them lonely, but Nietzsche argued the opposite, that solitude, when embraced, makes you powerful. Because when you stand alone and thrive, you no longer need validation, you no longer beg for love, you no longer fear abandonment. You become self-contained, complete, dangerous. That is why he saw solitude as the foundation of greatness. A man who has not endured the silence of being alone will always be a prisoner in love. He will cling, he will compromise, he will weaken. But the man who has mastered solitude enters the world unchained. So ask yourself, is your solitude making you stronger, or are you still running from it? Because Nietzsche would tell you, the man who cannot be alone can never truly be free. Picture this: a young man with fire in his eyes, filled with ambition and restless with dreams too big for the small world around him. He wakes early, he works late, and he sacrifices comfort for vision. He is building something only he can see. And then one day, he meets her. At first, it feels like destiny. She laughs at his jokes, admires his drive, tells him she believes in him. Slowly, he begins to shape his days around her. The long nights of study turn into long conversations. The quiet mornings of discipline become mornings of distraction. His fire dims. Not all at once, but gradually. So slowly that he doesn't notice until years have passed. One day, he looks at his reflection and sees not the man he once dreamed of becoming, but a softer version of himself. His ambition diluted, his strength bent, his freedom quietly traded for comfort. What began as passion ended as dependence. Nietzsche saw this pattern everywhere. To him, love was not the glorious salvation poets made it out to be, but often a mask for weakness, for fear of solitude. He believed that men surrender their independence too easily, mistaking attachment for meaning. And in doing so, they betray the very part of themselves that could have thrived. How many men, even now, are living someone else's life? How many have abandoned their deepest callings to keep a partner happy, to avoid the terror of being alone? Nietzsche called this the slow suicide of the spirit. You don't notice it happening, but each compromise chips away at your will until one day you are no longer yours. That is the trap of love when entered too soon, too blindly, too desperately. It doesn't just consume your time, it consumes your soul. But Nietzsche's point wasn't to hate love. It was to master yourself before you give yourself away. Because when you stand alone, when you face your solitude and build strength from it, you become complete. You no longer need someone to fill your emptiness, because there is no emptiness left. And from that place, love can be chosen freely, not clung to like a drug. If these words strike something inside you, if you feel the sting of recognition or the unease of resistance, it means you already sense the truth. Most men don't want to hear this. They prefer the illusion. But if you're still listening, then you're different. You're one of the few willing to confront the hard reality Nietzsche saw. And if you want to keep walking further into these truths, not the comfortable lies, but the brutal insights that actually set you free, then stay here. Subscribe, not as an act of routine, but as a choice to stand with those who refuse to be deceived. Because the man who rushes into love too soon loses himself. But the man who builds himself first becomes untouchable. So ask yourself, are you building your future, or are you building someone else's? Most people don't actually fear being single. They fear meeting themselves in the silence. Think about that. When the noise fades, when the distractions are gone, when there is no lover, no text messages, no television to drown it out, all that is left is you. And for most people, that is unbearable. Nietzsche saw this weakness clearly. He believed that solitude is the most honest mirror a human being can face. In solitude, you see your failures with no filter. You feel the weight of your wasted years. You confront your darkest impulses, your unfulfilled ambitions, your broken promises to yourself. The silence is not empty. It is loud. It is filled with every truth you've been avoiding. And that is why most people run from it. They run into relationships not because they are ready to love, but because they are terrified of being alone with their own reflection. A partner becomes a shield, a distraction, a convenient way to avoid asking the question that matters most. Who am I, really? This is why Nietzsche insisted that solitude was essential for the higher man. Because if you cannot sit with yourself in silence, if you cannot bear the weight of your own company, you will forever need someone else to numb you. And that need makes you weak. It makes you dependent. It makes you controllable. Look around. How many people do you know who bounce from one relationship to another, unable to last even a few months alone? They justify it as love. But deep down, it's fear. Fear of emptiness. Fear of their own thoughts. Fear of realizing that beneath the surface, they have not built themselves into anything solid. Nietzsche warned that this avoidance comes with a cost, because every time you refuse to face yourself, you lose the chance to grow. Growth is forged in the fire of solitude. That is where you test your discipline, where you discover your limits, where you hear the quiet voice of your real ambition. Without solitude, you never meet the strongest version of yourself. Think of the man who cannot handle silence. He fills every hour with noise, music in his ears, chatter in his phone, constant validation from others. He feels alive, but the truth is, he's hollow. Remove the distractions, and he collapses. Contrast him with the man who embraces solitude. He doesn't run from the silence, he sharpens himself in it. He reads, he trains, he creates, he builds. He turns loneliness into fuel, and when he finally steps back into the world, he is unshakable. Nietzsche knew that solitude is not for the faint of heart. It is not comfortable. It is not easy. It exposes you. It strips you bare. But only by enduring that can you truly become free. Because the man who has faced himself, who has conquered his inner chaos, cannot be broken by others. He carries his own foundation inside him. And this is why Nietzsche often spoke with contempt about people who clung to relationships for comfort. He saw them as choosing slavery over freedom, choosing the soft pillow of companionship over the hard road of self-mastery. And in doing so, they guaranteed their own mediocrity. The truth is simple, but brutal. Solitude will either destroy you or transform you. It will crush the weak, but it will forge the strong. And if you are brave enough to endure it, to walk through the silence without running, you will come out the other side different, sharper, clearer, more powerful than the ones who cannot live without constant company. So ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you were truly alone? Not just physically, but mentally. No distractions, no noise, no one to hide behind. Just you, facing the truth of who you are. Could you handle it, or would you break? Nietzsche believed that question separates the higher man from the herd. The herd runs from solitude. The higher man embraces it, because he knows that only in solitude can he build a life that belongs to him. A life that no one else controls, a life that no illusion can destroy. Most people can't handle being alone. But if you can, you will be free in a way they will never understand. We've seen what happens when men run from solitude. We've seen how love can become a trap when entered too soon, too blindly. But Nietzsche didn't simply warn against weakness. He also revealed the incredible power of the man who chooses to stand alone. Because solitude, when mastered, doesn't make you empty. It makes you sovereign. Think about what a man gains when he stays single and embraces solitude. He owns his time completely. Every hour of the day belongs to him. He can wake when he chooses, train when he chooses, create when he chooses. No compromises, no excuses, no soft negotiations that trade away his fire, his energy, his resources, his focus. All of it flows into building himself. This is why Nietzsche insisted that greatness cannot be born in constant companionship. The higher man must first belong to himself before he can belong to anyone else. Alone, he builds strength. Alone, he learns discipline. Alone, he becomes a man who does not bend easily to the world's illusions. Look at the lives of extraordinary men. They were not formed in the comfort of romance, but in years of solitary struggle. Writers, philosophers, generals, inventors. They all had seasons where they walked alone, cut off from society, married only to their vision. And it was in those years that they created their legacy. When you stay single with purpose, you are not avoiding love. You are preparing for it. You are creating the version of yourself that cannot be destroyed by it. Most men rush into relationships seeking completion, but the man who thrives in solitude is already complete. If he chooses love later, it is not out of desperation, but out of strength. He does not cling, he does not lose himself. He enters it freely, and he can leave it freely. That is true independence. Nietzsche's harsh truth was this: only the man who stands alone can rise above the herd. The herd will always rush to pair off, to hide in relationships, to drown their silence with company. They will call you strange, selfish, even broken for staying single. But what they cannot see is that solitude is not your weakness. It is your edge. And in a world that constantly pushes distraction, the man who can stay single and build himself is rare. Rare men are always feared, always envied, always respected, because they are untouchable. They cannot be controlled by desire, by fear of abandonment, or by the need for validation. They are free. So here is Nietzsche's challenge, and mine to you. Don't rush to escape solitude. Use it. Master it. Turn it into the forge that builds the man you are meant to be. A man who thrives not because someone completed him, but because he completed himself. If these truths speak to you, then you already know why this message matters. We live in a time when voices like Nietzsche's are buried under noise, when comfort, distraction, and illusion dominate everything. But here, we uncover the harder truths. And if you want to go deeper, if you want to help keep this channel alive and growing, consider supporting on Patreon. Not as charity, but as a commitment. A commitment to yourself and to keeping these rare, uncomfortable truths alive in a world that would rather silence them. Because in the end, Nietzsche was right. Only the man who dares to stand alone will ever learn what it truly means to thrive. The question is, will you be one of them?